All right. So wouldn't it be great if we didn't have John Cornyn as the senator from the great state of Texas?
Yes, it would.
Now, we have
depending on who you replace him with.
Well, Louis Gohmert would be great.
Yes,
Would be great.
You know who else? I've heard a rumor.
I know. I'm not going to go there. I won't do it. Louis Gohmert would be great.
Yeah.
I've talked to Ted Cruz's father.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be great. I have done everything but get down on my knees and begged David Barton. And when I called David Barton about 2 weeks ago, David is on the phone with us. Hi, David.
Hey, guys.
I called David up and I said, so, David, I've got the perfect candidate. He knows the Constitution. He's a guy that he listens to God. He prays. He's solid. He can raise money. He's a national figure. He said, who is it?
How do you say no to that guy?
I know.
You can't.
He was very interested. He said, who is it? And I said, you. And he got dead silent. And I said, oh, my goodness. You've actually thought of this. He said, yes, it has been brought to my attention, and I have considered it. Last week, I talked to David Barton, and he was in my office, and I almost wet my pants because he was very exciting about, okay, I think I can do this, this, and this, and I think this is actually a winnable thing.
It's definitely a winnable thing. I mean, there's no question about that.
Then he came out with a big but, and there's always a big but. God has to tell me. And I'm like, oh, jeez. Don't always have to check with Dad. And he said, I just want to make sure that the family is on board and that I just feel spiritually this is the time and everything else. And so here he is today. He's done all of his homework. He's crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. And
first of all, is this an accurate story, David? Was this the way you would tell the story?
We don't have to always check with David.
I think it'd be an interesting perspective to fact check this story.
David? So where are you today? You have an announcement that you're going to make on running for Senate.
Well, actually, you got it right. We've run all the traps, done the polling, looked at everything. It is a winnable race, but in all the prayer time, all the family time, consulting with all the folks we trust, time is just not right for me. And so from my standpoint, I'm...
How about now? Is the time right now?
Okay, maybe the time is right now.
Right back then. Have you checked about
now.
Right now?
That's right. Yeah, it could have changed in the last 5 minutes.
So, David, this is a good thing and a bad thing, because do you feel that at some point you might run for Senate?
Well, I think that's definitely a possibility. Yes, sir.
So that's a good thing, because you believe there will be a Senate to run for someplace in the future, which I think is an upside.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
We should also, quick reminder, and I know you've thought this out, David, but the next real opportunity for this, I think, from running from a constitutional perspective, is 2020.
Yeah.
Because Ted Cruz, unless he's president of the United States, which, hey, we can all dream, so I'll throw that possibility out, but he's probably going to be a pretty good bet for a re-election.
That's true. It could come up in 2016.
Could.
It could come up in 2016, which would be interesting.
How old will you be in 2020, David?
Oh, man. Mid-60s. Mid-60s.
We've already got the signs.
Yeah, we have the signs made. Have you seen the signs?
Ready.
We made the signs for you, David.
Ready.
What can I do to talk you into this?
You know, that was really funny. At the Mercury One fundraiser that night when I got up to speak, they already had distributed all the signs for Senate. I don't know who designed it, who planned it.
I have no idea. Who was it? Jeffy knows.
It was a listener. They emailed me the other day with all the information.
And they said they've got all the signs. They've got them all printed. They've got them already put in yards, David.
They've got the signs. They've got the websites. They're ready to go.
David, is there anything that anybody could ever say to you that would change your mind?
Yeah, God. I mean, you got it right. Check with Dad, and just from what we all believed and felt, and all the praying we did, because I'm very open to listening to all sides before I make a decision, and that's why we did the polling. That's why we did the push polling, see what areas are vulnerable, what are the target areas, and the things that I thought would be the target areas are the target areas. I mean, we went through all that.
So, David, you thought that it's a winnable race, and you thought that the fundraising wouldn't be a massive issue.
Tough.
I mean, it's
It'd be
hard.
tough, but
Obviously,
I don't
it's hard
think
because you got to raise a lot of money in a very short amount of time. But did you think that was doable?
Well, here's the deal. The fundraising side, in order to be outspent only 5 to 1, I'd have to raise $200,000 a day from now to the election.
Yeah, is that doable?
Well, remember the holidays.
It is kind of doable. The answer to that question, really, Pat, is will people continue to give? I think the first $3 to $4 million is very easy to raise. We do have a national base. There's national recognition. And I think the money comes easily. Will it continue to come after that? That becomes the question. That's what you don't know.
Also,
right.
I think David is a guy who, people like Karl Rove don't really like. And so I think people like Karl Rove.
I think you can be stronger than that, Glenn.
Go ahead, David. I'm being kind.
I don't think it's don't really like. It's definitely don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
He really doesn't like David.
Well, but okay, so if it's not Louis and it's not you,
has Louis ruled it out?
I'm pretty well tapped out for possible candidates.
Yeah, and I don't think I just don't think it's going to happen this time.
It's not going to happen.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
Really, the stuff the big stuff that Cornyn did to really raise his profile happened really late in the political cycle. Had it happened 4, 5, 6 months ago, as opposed to just what he did, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, it would have really accelerated this a lot more. But he for those of us that have watched this stuff, we've seen this going on for years. But in order to get the public behind, he really stepped in it too late in the cycle to really. So
he did, and the thing he's so adept at doing
is
jumping back to the right whenever he needs to. He goes back and forth and vacillates the whole time, and then people forget.
So, David, let me change topics here just a bit, because I'm gravely concerned about the battle that is being played out right now with the big donors, and the big donors are being misled by Karl Rove and Pete Sessions and everybody else that there's this Tea Party split, and they're the real enemies, and you got to destroy the Tea Party. Yesterday, what happened in Virginia, Karl Rove and the GOP establishment, they decided on October 1st that this race wasn't winnable by the GOP. 1.4. This was lost by 1.4%.
It wound up settling a little over 2%, actually.
Still,
but
2%.
Very
it's
close.
2%. It's close. Yesterday we exposed.
It was, a week out that it was 11 points. That's really close.
Right. Yesterday we exposed that the Libertarian was being funded by the biggest bundler of the president.
Yep.
He was not a Libertarian, and I figured that out the first time I asked, tell me about his viewpoints. They weren't Libertarian. Somebody on the Blaze heard it. And she went to work, she did her homework, and she found out, no, this guy isn't. He's a shill. So, you've got Karl Rove throwing the election to McAuliffe. What is going to happen with these guys? Because they want the Tea Party to lose more than they want the Constitution to win.
Yeah, and that is the problem that has to be addressed. The donors are starting to see that. Though one of the things that was encouraging in us looking at it was we had several of the really big donors who said, "Look, we'll set up outside groups, 527s, and run things for you." And they're the ones that 4 years ago would have been on the traditional Republican bandwagons. So there are definitely some guys who have figured out that their ROI is very bad under current Republican establishment folks. And they are conservative, constitutional-minded folks that want the right thing. So it is slowly happening. The problem we still have is our guys are not that sophisticated on infrastructure yet. We still lack the consultants. We still lack the campaign managers. We still lack the people who can run these. I mean, it takes a really qualified set of accountants and attorneys to be able to do the federal election gyrations you have to do. And by and large, they're not conservatives. They tend to be establishment folks. So we're trying to build a cadre of those kind of folks so that we can have the infrastructure we need to be able to compete at that level. And that is happening. It's just not as fast as we need it to.
I'll tell you this, David, that I'm convinced, because I saw your press release, and it's up on the Blaze, and it's very good, and you should read it yourself. But you talk about going out and educating, and I am convinced, David, that this thing is going to come undone. In what shape and form and when it does come undone, I don't know, but it does come undone, and it's going to take an educated. It's going to take a wise and honest group of people to be able to repair it and put it all back together. And the best thing that we can do is hold on to our states, get involved in local politics. How many of us voted yesterday? I voted. You guys vote yesterday? You voted too, Pat? Very light. And there were constitutional amendments here in Texas that were being voted on. You've got to get involved in local politics and find out what's going on. Grab your school boards and everything else and shore up your local communities and your state. And that's what you're planning on doing.
That's exactly it. We've got to get a whole lot more engaged, involved. You just hit local communities. I am a firm believer that this thing gets healthy from the bottom up, not the top down. We see it in the top, but you get healthy at the local school board and city council, mayor first. And that's the farm team that produces the good candidates that work their way to the top. And I was just working with the city this weekend. It's a city of 50,000 people, and they only have 1,600 vote in their city elections. Now, all you got to have is 801 to win a city election. That is a piece of cake. And so we should be loading those school boards up. We should be loading city councils up, public utility districts up. We ought to be filling them with our guys, constitutional conservatives, top to bottom. Let them get some experience at that level, move up in the farm team till they become a state rep and a state senator, and then they run for Congress. And then
people will say that's going to take too much. That's going to take too much time. But I'm telling you, everything is about local control. The closer to the individual, absolutely. I mean, that's what we believe in. So why we're fighting this authoritarian rule by trying to be authoritarians? Why we're not doing it at the local level is beyond me, because that's what we believe in.
And that's the least glamorous stuff, but that's what we have to get into. And the other thing we have to get into is we have to get into process. I hosted your program earlier in the week, and one of the things that I pointed out was experiences I had last year of constitutional conservatives who came to me as I was serving on a national committee to restore the Constitution and kept making resolutions that they wanted included in that document. But the resolutions they proposed were exactly against the Constitution, and they said they were trying to support the Constitution. I mean, as conservatives, we don't yet know our own document. We're not yet familiar with our own document, and we have got to learn it ourselves so that we can assert it and defend it.
All right, now that we've heard all the fluff, I want to get down to the real meat here, and I've only got about a minute left, but I have to ask you this question, otherwise I'm going to be, the press will go crazy. You know what's happening in Canada with the mayor up there. Any truth to the rumor that you're not running because you've smoked crack while you were completely drunk at a party with the mayor of Toronto?
Well, that's a good rumor. I can say there's no truth to that rumor.
David, it's only once. We'll all understand you only smoked crack once.
And only because you were sloppy drunk.
You were drunk.
Come on.
The Toronto rumor, the San Diego rumor, they're all wrong.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, David. I appreciate it.
Bless you guys.
All right. Bye-bye. The only thing you can't say no to. I mean, when he was in my office,
it's disappointing.
And he was like, we're praying on it, and I'm like, oh, geez. I haven't understood a single thing the Lord has told me to do lately in the last 2 years, so he's going to say no because that seems like what you should be doing, and so it's going to be no because everything I think should be done, he keeps saying no.